The next episode of Nerd, Flicks, and Chill will start in
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everybody, this is Nick,
And this is Carrie.
and we are Nerd, Flicks, and Chill, and today we are talking about Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 8, No One. Before we get into our weekly recap of the episode, I guess we want to talk a little bit about why we were kind of going into it yesterday with heavy hearts. As you guys all know, there was the tragedy in Orlando, and Orlando is a city that is very important to both Carrie and myself. We've both spent time living in Orlando, so I spent about 6 years in Orlando, and I still visit all the time. I was just there not too long ago, and it's always a city that has a special place for me. So going into last night, it definitely felt not the same, because everything just felt so sad and difficult and challenging to just kind of make it through the day without becoming overly emotional about what was going on. Carrie, did you have any thoughts or?
I do. It's actually really difficult for me to talk about. I still live in Orlando, and I've been here for about half of my life. And the events that occurred yesterday happened almost quite literally in my backyard. So it very much hit close to home. Unfortunately, some of the victims were friends of friends. So, yeah, this one really hit me. And by the time later on in the evening when Game of Thrones came on, I watched it and I was looking forward to it because I wanted to somehow feel normal again. And I watched it and I had no recollection of what even happened in the show. And I know you had messaged me and like, wow, a lot happened. I was like, I don't even know what happened. I have to go back and watch it again. So I had to go back and watch it again, and I watched it a little bit, but I think a lot of the things that happened in the show just didn't really resonate with me like I thought that they would, because it kind of paled in comparison to everything that was happening just down the street from me. So I just watched it again a few minutes ago, and it's okay. I'm kind of jazzed about it again. So I'm really, really happy that we are here and we are recording, and yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that people should know about Orlando, for those of our listeners who don't really know it very well. I mean, it's not like New York or Los Angeles when it comes to, the film and television and production meccas of the world, but there are a lot of talented, wonderful performers in the Orlando area, and it is a community that is very interconnected, as you know. I don't have to tell you that.
Right.
So it feels as though one of the things that makes this, hit even closer to home is that it impacts that small interwoven community.
Yeah, like I said, even though I didn't know some of the people directly, I knew them through other people. And even just that similar connection, they're automatically part of your family. It's, like we had on Game of Thrones, where we saw the theater group. They're like their own little family. And you let someone into that family and they are immediately part of it, and no questions asked. So yeah, this really affected me, and it's still affecting me. It's difficult for me to talk about it right now, so let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Sure, sure. We will move into our recap. One more thing that I do want to say, just to kind of, if there is any possible way to transition from that topic into what we do, just to kind of give our listeners a little bit of an idea as to why we do what we do. And I've been thinking about this all day yesterday based on what happened, and even what I was just saying about, how Orlando is a town of performers. I think our silly little podcast, which has its own slowly growing audience, which we're very thankful for.
Yay!
Um, One of the reasons why we do this is because you and I assume the people that are goodly enough to listen to us, are interested in storytelling and they see the value in storytelling. And it's part of how we are shaped and formed as individuals. We are first exposed to the world through stories and storytelling. Our lens through which we view the world is established by stories and storytelling. It's why we, painted on the caves. It's why we have all of these different legendary tales that have been used over the years to help mold and shape individual behavior. Um, Stories, whether it's through a book or television or a song or a film, they give us heroes to look forward to seeing. They give us people to aspire to. They give us ways to relate to the world around us, ways to challenge our own morality, and also a form of escapism. And it's part of a way for us to escape the world. So, with that said, I think that one of the things I looked forward to yesterday, once 9 o'clock hit, was actually escaping into this world to try to find a little bit of solace and comfort.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even though I had it on and I wasn't really, it was hard for me to focus on it. Um, I was really happy to have it there. Um, and I was really looking forward to, or I am really looking forward to recording today because this even more so is snapping me out of a very harsh reality. It's kind of lining me back up and letting me not think about what's outside of my door. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you and I, Nick, decided to do this. And I'm happy that it seems like there are some people that are on board with us, that there's some people that are enjoying escaping with us and spending, an hour to an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of their day listening to you and I ramble about a TV show. And I hope that they decide to stick on and listen to us ramble about some movies and other TV shows and who knows what else. Nick and I we've got plans of other things that we want to do with our channel, and yeah, we've got some ideas. So hopefully, if you like us, you will tell other people about us, and spread the word because the more people that we get, involved, the more we'll be able to do. And, follow us on Twitter at NerdFlixChill, also on Facebook at NerdFlixChill. And that way we can really start to grow our little group. And we'd like to hear from you. Who are you? Where are you listening from? That I'm really curious as to how far our reach is. We just said I'm in Orlando, but I'm really curious as to where some of our other people are listening from. I'm sure we've got some listeners in Orlando because I've been telling everybody I know to come and listen to this show, but I'm wondering beyond that where people are from.
Yeah. And as we get into it, probably should just tell our friends in Orlando, we do love you guys. We are thinking about you all.
Always.
All right. So, shall we get into Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 8, Noon?
Noon? I'm like, wait, it's way past noon. What you talking about?
Noone.
Yes.
Noon.
Noonay.
Noonay.
Is there an accent on that E? Is it French?
We usually do this. We usually do this bit where we talk about all the things that the titles could potentially mean. For this one, I think no one just means no one's crazy fan theories are alive by the end of the episode.
Yes. Which, our last episode that we recorded was our predictions episode. And I have to say, a lot of my predictions are totally right on. Thank you very much.
Good for you. Bravo. Bravo. Here, that's me giving you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Because mine were slightly off.
Well, a lot of people's were really, really off. And I'm sticking with my guns here. And I said this during the predictions episode that it seems like all of the crazy fan theories are just that. They're crazy and they're overly complicated. And anytime anything actually happens, when, things come about in the show, it's usually way more simple. So,
Sure.
and that's really what happened. Although I kind of have a little bit of a problem with some of the stuff in the show. We'll go into it later. But yeah, really simplified.
Yeah, I
Really, really simplified.
I found myself kind of scratching my head a little bit when I first watched the episode, and then when I did my rewatch, I wound up liking it a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, well, of course, I liked it more as I watched it because, almost the first two times that I watched it didn't count. So, the third time, yeah, I liked it a lot more, but I'm still scratching my head at some of it. I thought that was really quite interesting. So, do you want to get us started off?
Sure. The episode opens with Lady Crane giving her a monologue as she's closing out her scene on stage. She makes her way backstage. She finds Arya bleeding, injured, and takes her back to kind of try to nurse her back to health. We get a little bit of backstory on Lady Crane. Find out she's a little bit of a dangerous person herself, and she's there to kind of help Arya out, trying to help her convalesce.
I thought it was really interesting when we first opened on Lady Crane and she's doing her big monologue. Seemed as if she took some of Arya's critiques to heart and made a little change to her monologue. And it looks like it was very effective.
Yeah, the audience sure seemed to dig it.
They did. They were eating it up. Did you catch the line that Lady Crane said to Arya? Arya had asked her, "It's like, oh, what did you whatever happened with you and that other actress?" Because Arya, last time she was there, she watch out for that one. She wants you dead, and then she just turns and walks away. And it's kind of like, wow, how do you just leave it with that? What happens afterwards? Well, Lady Crane, she's a little bit of a badass. We learn because she says that she's gonna have a hard time finding work with what I did to her face. So she puts
Yeah,
like a couple big slashes through her face.
she kicked her ass.
She totally did, and she's not completely foreign to kicking ass because apparently she gets messed up with some bad guys, or she has a bad taste in men. It sounds like,
Well, I
and
feel like those guys might have a thing for bad girls because
yeah,
she likes to poke some holes in dudes. So, part of the conversation that they have, they talk about, where Arya can go next. Arya says something really, really interesting to me here that I really enjoy. She talks about Essos is in the east, Westeros is in the west, but what's west of Westeros? This idea that, all the maps stop there and what's at the edges of the world and how she would like to go explore that. I just thought that was a really neat little touch in that scene because I've always wondered the same thing. What is west of Westeros?
yeah, I guess when any of us look at their map, we just assume that that's what the planet is. It's just Westeros and Easteros, and it probably wraps around in a nice little circle. But who knows? There could be other lands in between
Well,
there.
I don't know where Easteros is, but I'm assuming that there's probably a lot of bunnies walking around.
Oh, Essos, Westeros, Easteros, how it is.
Easteros,
Sounded good to me. Uh,
Northeros, Southeros.
yeah, Planetos.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's a flat Planetos, apparently, or so they believe right now. But yeah, who knows? I'm smelling a spinoff.
Yeah.
Arya
Yeah.
going out and exploring the world and finding other Lanatos. I don't know.
Teratos? I don't know.
Yes,
We're just gonna ose everything.
exactly.
All right.
Pingiatos. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Arya drinks some milk of the poppy and then she goes to sleep. And we transition into the Hound, who is still walking through the woods with his axe, while some dudes from the Brotherhood Without Banners act totally gross and sophomoric and juvenile. They
Yeah, that was
act like
gross.
disgusting old twats, as the one young man in that scene refers to them. So up comes the Hound. The Hound's not fucking around here. The Hound
No.
just shows up and he just starts going all Hound on everybody. cuts a dude's head right off. Not the only Clegane to move a head in this episode.
Oh ho
I'm sorry.
ho!
Not the only Clegane to remove a head in this episode. We do get that a little bit later on.
No, I liked it the first time.
What?
I liked it what you said the first time. Not the
I
only
know.
cocaine to get ahead. Ho ho ho!
Oh, ha ha.
I'm keeping all of that in here, by the way.
Fantastic. But the Hound also doesn't just remove heads, he removes nuts because he took the axe right to that one dude's crotch, and that did not really work out for him.
No, that even made me pucker.
Like, everything just falls out.
Oh gosh, yeah, that hurt. That hurt me even.
And the best part is, the Hound just starts riffing on this dude. He's like, those are your last words? You're shit at dying. Like, man, Hound, he's just bebopping and scatting all over the place.
I know, the writing for him, again, I keep making all these comments on the writing, but I love the dialogue. But this episode, for me, had a lot of, it was really black and white with me, because there was some dialogue that I really, really liked, like these exchanges that the Hound had. Actually, almost everything that the Hound said I thought was great this episode. But then there's some dialogue that happens in the episode as well. The stuff in Marine, I just thought was kind of clunky, and I don't know, I didn't care for it at all. But yeah, I love the Hound and his little one-offs.
So the Hound basically wipes out most of these guys from the Brotherhood that attacked the commune in the last episode, but he does say that he's looking for the man in the yellow cloak, who is, of course, Lemon Cloak. And that's all we see from the Hound. Then we do come back to the Hound a little bit later. I do want to come back to that a little bit later on, but then we do go over to Marine, where we have Tyrion and Varys. Varys is apparently leaving town. Any idea what Varys might be up to?
Well, there was something that he said that I thought was really interesting, that he said, well, we need to have friends in Westeros and we need ships. So to me, that makes me think, okay, well, who in Westeros is known for having ships? Well, we've got the Greyjoys, and half of the Greyjoys, it seems, are already on their way. The other ones are building ships because now they don't have any ships. So does that mean that maybe while Varys is on his way, he'll run into the Greyjoys because the Greyjoys are already on their way to him? Or are they going to pass quite literally like ships in the night? And he gets to Westeros and he sees that the Greyjoys don't have any ships yet because the other ships are already gone and they're already there. I don't know what's going to happen there. It makes me think that he thinks he's going to go and get the Greyjoys. I don't know anybody else that has a bunch of ships. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's kind of what I think.
So what I was thinking here is, I believe that Varys is going to Dorne. We haven't heard from Dorne in a while, not since the very first episode. And logically speaking, if you are trying to get the Dothraki from Essos to Westeros, probably, if you were to look at a map, the shortest distance that you would have to travel by sea would be to travel into Dorne. And you know that Dorne does not like the Lannisters.
True.
They don't like the crown, so they already have kind of a natural allegiance there. We also know the Dornish do not mind a female ruler because they are kind of an equal opportunity society. They can have female leaders, they can have male leaders.
Yep.
So it seems to be kind of a good natural alliance.
Yeah.
There's also conceivably that they could be trying to partner with the Tyrells also, because I was thinking back to maybe Lady Olenna was writing her letter to Varys in the last episode that we saw.
Okay.
Maybe possible.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two that I immediately thought of. I don't think that it's going to involve the Iron Islanders at all, but I do think it will involve either Highgarden or Dorne.
No, is Highgarden, is that on a coast?
Let me look at my map.
I mean, does Highgarden even have ships?
Well, Highgarden, shit, what are the...
Because if not, then that doesn't make any sense.
The Tyrells are based out of Highgarden. There is a river that runs close to Highgarden. I assume they have some sort of fleet. So
Okay.
That would make sense. And they have a pretty large army too.
Yeah, but for with what they need, just having an army is not going to get them any. It's not going to be any good if they don't have. I mean, they even said, well, we're going to need about 1,000 ships.
Hmm.
So I doubt a city that's just laying on a river is going to have a fleet of 1,000 ships. They
Well,
would need somebody on the coast.
it could also be a combination of the Tyrells and the Sands or whoever it is that's running Dorne right now.
Hmm. And Dorne's on a coast, though, right?
Well, Dorne's on like a peninsula. Dorne's like the Florida.
Okay. Then yeah,
It's kind of like if you were to turn Florida sideways.
that probably makes more sense because the Greyjoys are all the way on the other side, so that really wouldn't make much sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would go. Yeah, I would say probably the Dornish thing then. Yeah.
Well, what did you make of the parting between Tyrion and Varys? Because it was another one of these weird things where like characters separate, but it almost feels kind of final in a way. The show's done this before,
Mm-hmm.
um, but this like it reminded me of that scene in Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan and Anakin are saying goodbye to each other. Like, may the force be with you. Goodbye, old friend. You know what I mean? It has that
Yeah.
feel of some sort of finality to it. So I was kind of wondering if you got that vibe too. Did it feel like it was like a what do you make of the parting of those two characters?
I think you read into it a lot more than I did. I mean, something about it kind of felt, I think the pacing of it or the timing of it or just the way that it was done felt a little odd, but I didn't really think anything of it. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, I can't go on a secret mission if I'm gonna walk away alone. So he walks away alone, then it's like, oh, nope, the most famous imp in the world. I mean, just it was just something about that that felt awkward. But beyond it feeling awkward, I didn't really think anything of it.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to this when we talk about our later scene here.
Okay.
So we go from there to Cersei
Yeah.
and the mountain and Qyburn, and of course you've got the seven sparrows that come to try to take Cersei to the Sept of Baelor, and that shit just ain't happening. After all this time, after this whole season, Cersei finally chooses violence. And I've been waiting for that for a long time, it feels like.
Yeah, they've been teasing that little moment, I choose violence, forever. And I think so many people, and myself included, thought that that was at the moment where she's getting ready to have her trial and are we going to have the sentencing? How is it going to go down? And you think her response is, I choose violence, and then we're going to have Clegane Bowl, and then people's heads are going to explode. But that's not what it was at all.
Yeah.
And I think when we really looked at the scene, you and I and a lot of other people could tell, like, well, that kind of looks like they're in a little hallway or it's like a little courtyard or something. That's not where you're going to be having a sentencing or a trial or anything like that. So what is happening here? And we had full on Mortal Kombat happen.
Yeah, what the fuck was that guy thinking? What like
I don't know.
first of all, I don't know what little ridiculous
With
weapon
his
these guys are carrying,
a tooth,
what
they're
those are,
they're
but
they're the little thing, the little toothpick thing you just stick in your teeth. You like kind of clean them out. That's like they had a big version of that.
when you have a 7 foot tall armored zombie, you don't take your weapon and smash him directly in the chest plate.
Well, they don't know it's a zombie.
Well, even still, if you're fighting the dude, you don't aim dead center for the chest plate on an armored man.
Did you
And that
hear
guy
it when
found
he
out
did
the
it? It was
hard
just
way.
like it was just
Yeah.
like empty almost. It's dong, like it just
I kind of
didn't
wish
even
that it would have
flinch.
just stayed in his chest, like stayed embedded in his chest as he's going through and fucking the guy up.
Yeah,
You
after
know,
he rips
and
his head off, then he could have ripped the guy's head off, then yanked out the spiky club thing and then stuck it in the guy. That's what should have happened. Thank you.
well, and what I love is like Lancel is so smug here. He's like, the High Sparrow commands you, and Cersei's like,
I don't
fuck you.
I don't give a shit.
And I like the way they're all like, tell your man to step aside or there will be violence. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, these dudes do not stand a chance. Like, and I get it. They travel in a group of seven because, the faith of the seven, whatever, but he would have killed all seven of those dudes.
Oh,
Probably
totally.
without too much of an issue.
No, it would have been nothing for him.
And of course, and that's when we get the second Clegane decapitation of the episode.
Yep. That was really cool, but the mountain was blocking the view. We didn't get to see the full thing.
But I did
I
like
am
the shot of the
disgusting.
blood dripping down into the I don't know if it was like a sewer grate.
Did you? Because I didn't. There were two shots in this episode that I'm like, that's just randomness. And that was one of them. The other one was watching the peace stream of the Hound later on. I'm like, why are you showing me this? I don't need
I
to see
have a
this.
theory as to why we saw that. I have a theory that we're going to get to a little bit later.
Okay.
It's not really a theory. I thought it was intentional trolling. I'll get to that a little bit later on.
Okay.
So yeah, Mountain rips the guy's head off. Pretty awesome. And then Cersei says something really smug like, tell the High Sparrow he can come by whenever he likes.
That's right.
It's I don't it's so crazy that I'm actually rooting for Cersei in this thing, as crazy as she is now. But after that we go to Brienne, who is approaching River Run with Podrick, who points out that there's a siege taking place.
You have
And
a
she
you have a very keen military mind, Pod. I just love the dry humor. I love her.
Yeah, so they go down to meet with Jaime. We get Braun. Braun has a moment with Podrick where
One of
they
my
get to
favorite
reunite.
moments. One of my favorite
Really?
moments. Yeah, I loved the moment with the two of them this episode. I really did.
Okay. Not my favorite, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Not my
I thought it
favorite.
was good.
I thought Braun was kind of like meh here, but he does basically kind of push the Jamie Brienne relationship right on out there, asking if the two are interested in boning one another,
Uh-huh.
and he seems to think so. He seems to think so, although he does seem a little jealous of Jamie because Jamie's so good looking and stuff.
Yeah. Do you think they're fucking? And Potter's just like, what? Like it's never even remotely crossed his mind. It's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, he totally would. Yeah, she probably would too. Have you thought
Yep.
about it? And he's just like, no, I'm her squire. Just it's like her Brienne's, you know, nobleness is completely, I mean, they are so much alike with how dedicated each of them are, and they have tunnel vision as far as that goes. And he's just like, you're speaking a foreign language to me. And I really kind of enjoyed it. And not only that, but I really enjoyed their little sparring session. And it's like Braun was kind of taking him under his wing a little bit because Pod just has a way of rubbing off on people, because Brienne at first she wasn't having it either, where he was just kind of like an eager puppy and she was annoyed by it. But then it was like, okay, help me off with my armor. And then she just kind of took him under her wing, and Braun is kind of doing the same thing. All right, I'll teach you how to fight like that. I enjoyed it. Maybe I like Pod.
Everyone wants to hit a squire.
That's right. And he totally did. He even left
Oddly enough,
a actual red mark on the guy's face. I think he really hit him.
we get our second instance in this episode of men fondling each other. So that's a thing that happens.
It was in a totally different way. Oh
Tell
no,
that
he
to
just, well, no, that's true. He did grab his junk, didn't he?
tell that to the judge.
Yeah, no, I I was thinking about him like taking him in the headlock. I forgot about the little, how's your father? The twig and berries action going on there. That's right, he totally did.
I honestly, I could have done without that whole scene between the two, but mostly because I'm not all that interested in those characters. But we do get to this Brienne and Jamie reunion, and this I just loved.
So good.
Loved it.
So good.
They're talking, and they talk about Brienne fulfilling her oath to Catelyn Stark and how Jamie's proud of her. He also kind of makes some like sideways comment about Sansa being surprised that she's lived so long because girls like her don't live too long, or something kind of flippant like that.
I didn't take it as flippant at all, actually. It was the tone of his voice to me was not flippant at all. Because he does get very flippant later on in his conversation with Edmure, but in that one line or that one little instance, he wasn't flippant because he was saying, in my experience, girls like her don't last very long. I think he was referring to his daughter.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because his
That's a
daughter
good
is
point.
kind of like Sansa, where she's, kind of dreamy and, thinking of the prince, and she's, a little naive, and, she's a good girl, but she's a naive girl in this, you know, world that wants to take advantage of her, and that's how I took that he sees Sansa like his daughter. And no, I don't think that was flippant at all.
The politics of this conversation are pretty intense too, because you have, Jaime is there to try to break the siege at River Run,
Yeah.
to basically wipe out the Tullys and give the Freys back control of the castle. Meanwhile, you've got Brienne coming, who is, serving Sansa Stark, who is wanted for the murder of Jaime's son, all the
Yeah.
while trying to win over Tully support to go back to the north to fight the Boltons. And like, there's just a lot of political shit happening in here, so much so that Jaime's like, let's not talk about politics.
Well, yeah, I think there are so many underlying feelings in this. Like there's so much in there, and I thought they both did a really good job in showing restraint underneath the words that they were saying. Does that make sense? She's so duty driven that I'm here and this is why I'm here, and it was almost like as if he was saying, "Yeah, I haven't seen you in so long. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I want to hear about you and how you are." And maybe that's me putting words in his mouth, but it just it was so rich and so wonderful, and there were so many things that were being said verbally, but so many things that were being said in their eyes and physically. It was like two totally different dialogues that were happening, and it was so good. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just because I want them to be there.
Yeah, the real subtext of that scene to me is the line where Brienne hands him back Oathkeeper, and he says to
Yes.
her, "It's yours. It will always be yours." And this, to me, strikes me as being about as romantic as Jaime is capable of being to somebody who's not Cersei.
Was he talking about the sword or his heart?
I don't know. And if you read the interview that Nikolai Coster-Waldau did with I can't remember who it was. It might have been like Entertainment Weekly or something. He mentions that very line and the subtext of it being that.
Really? I
Yep.
haven't read anything yet.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
one of the few things I actually read prior to us recording.
it was so wonderful. And then just after that, that's when she turns to him and says, honor is going to compel me to have to fight, and I might have to fight you. Basically, I'm
Mhm.
paraphrasing. And just the look on his face when she's saying that, it's like I took it, he admires her so much for how much honor how much integrity she has. You can just almost see the sparkle in his eye, and he almost has a little bit of a smirk on, or not a smirk in a sarcastic way, but just a little bit of a smile on his face. And he's like, I hope it doesn't come to that. And because I think he knows that she would probably kick his ass, but it's like part of me almost thinks that he kind of wouldn't mind it.
One of the things that has been a book reader complaint is that Jamie's redemptive arc that he had been on kind of stalled out in
Yeah.
season 4, in season 5, into season 6. And I started to see a glimmer of that redemptive arc maybe start to show just a little bit. Like, it's starting to come back around. There are a couple of different scenes with Jamie where you notice that they're starting to hint at it again. There's a scene where Brienne says, "You're a knight, Sir Jamie," basically telling him like, you know better, like you are an honorable person. It is in there. And that's like the first hint that we have gotten that Jamie could go back onto this redemptive storyline that he had been on previously. And that's the Jamie that I want to see. That's a little bit more of the book Jamie than it is the show Jamie. But I do feel like they're intentionally kind of delaying that, and they're starting to bring him back around to it. I think that it is no coincidence that Brienne and Jaime meet right now with the way the showrunners are crafting this story. I think this is going to start to propel Jaime into a newer redemptive arc for himself, and I hope it does.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this, and I haven't read the book, so I don't have anything to compare it to, and I think that arc isn't as diminished for me as it seems like it is to everybody else. I know that he kind of slipped back a little bit. He was still on his a bit of his redemption. He, was sent off to Dorne to, collect his daughter. And because of what happened there, I mean, even after things happened there, to me, he was still very honorable the because of the note that he wrote back, which wasn't in the show. I mean, you had to get that in one of the extras outside of the show to read what it was that he wrote. Because what he wrote, I felt was very admirable, was very like, wow, I thought that was really upstanding. What he said, where it was like, okay, we're going to send your son back. We're not going to harm him. I know it wasn't you. My anger, it doesn't lie with you. Of course, again, I am paraphrasing because I don't remember what he said exactly. I don't have it in front of me. But I thought it was really good. For a time, he kind of slipped back with Cersei when she, starting to get her vengeance back. But I don't feel that he fully slipped enough to say that it had a big hiccup or that he was losing his redemptive arc. It didn't have that as big of an impact on me as that I think it did with other people. I can still see it. It's still there. It's still arcing, I guess. But then
Yeah,
again, because I don't have anything to compare it to, so
yeah. It seems like they're putting pieces in place for him to have to be confronted with something at the end of this season that's going to
oh, is going to shadow something that he has dealt with before, I
I
believe.
I believe that too. I
Yeah,
think that's exactly where the show's going. I think the show's teed that up that that's going to happen. But
yeah,
I want to come back to Jaime in a little bit
yep,
because we then see Brienne talking to the Blackfish, and he is as stubborn as Jaime said he is,
yep.
and he does not want to leave Riverrun. He's committed to it. Doesn't matter if Sansa is just like Cat, like he says. He's willing to die in his castle.
Yeah, and I thought, good for Brienne. She stuck to her guns, and again, she is so honor driven, and she has a duty, and she is going to do this to the best of her ability. And I really thought that she had him. I thought she had him when she had, mentioned her honor and her word and why she was there, and she gave word to Catelyn that she would serve her daughter, and the Blackfish, he kind of softened there for a moment, and I thought, I'm like, oh, she did it. She got him, and no, he wasn't, and I felt you just see the pain in her eyes when she tells Pod, go find the Maester. We have to send a raven. Tell her that I failed.
Yeah, you
Like,
almost
oh,
think that Brienne needs like a coach. Like she needs like a life coach because she takes things so hard. Like she always believes that she's failed, spectacularly, and uh, I think she takes things a little too hard.
I don't know what I'm gonna say.
I was gonna say that's what she said.
Oh,
Takes too hard. Okay, so after the Blackfish basically says not gonna happen, we do go back to Cersei, who heads to the throne room for a special announcement
eh,
by her son,
yep,
and that special announcement is basically fuck your Clegane Bowl.
yes. Wah wah
Yeah,
wah.
and millions of nerds cried in their beers because trial by combat is now outlawed.
Yeah, even more so what I took from this scene. Two things I took from this scene. One at the very beginning and one at the very end was the confrontation between her and Kevin. I actually kind of enjoyed it. She's like, "Yeah, I hear there's a royal announcement. How come I wasn't told? There's a royal announcement. It's taking place in the throne room." right now. It was just, I thought that exchange, I thought it was really funny. And I know I was kind of questioning before now, is like, oh, is Kevin just playing along? Is he really kind of in with it too? Yeah, no, he's totally in with it. He hates Cersei. And
Yeah,
I enjoyed that little exchange.
Cersei's very marginalized now. Like we can totally see it.
Yeah.
It's as evident as it's ever been. She's been totally marginalized. Nobody likes her. Even her own kid won't even talk to her. I did notice a couple of other things in here. Tommen talks about how he's consulted with the High Septon, and essentially telling us that King's Landing is now a total theocracy.
Yeah.
Like the theocracy has taken over, and it didn't take very long for the High Sparrow to now have the king reading decrees basically that he dictated. So this is now a total theocracy.
And he wasn't
Another,
even there for it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's almost like Tommen's the hand of the king, and the High Septon is the king. Another thing that Tommen says here is the Father judges us all. If you break his laws, you have to stand trial. Again, indicating the patriarchy here.
Yep.
The Father judges us all. If you
Yeah.
break his laws, again, that patriarchal ideology still very evident in the faith of the Seven. And after Tommen cancels the Clegane Bowl, he decides that the trial of Cersei and Loras is going to be on the first day of the Festival of the Mother.
What does that mean? Is that something significant? I don't know what that meant. Because it seemed
I,
like it was very pointed, that they made kind of a big deal about it. I was like, I don't know what that means.
I think in Westeros that means the season finale 2 weeks from now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the Festival of the Mother is.
Okay. Yeah, because there was just something where, like, the way that it was said, it was almost as if you got the script, like, that line was highlighted or something. I don't know
It's like
why. It just stood
the
out to me.
Festival of the Mother is a place where everybody's going to gather in the same place
Yeah.
in a
Sounds like
couple weeks.
exactly.
And then, and wouldn't it be terrible if somebody heard a rumor about a stockpile of wildfire in King's Landing?
Yeah. Uh, so after he announces that there's not going to be a no more trial by combat anymore because it's barbaric. That it's going to be a trial by 7 septons. So we're going to see some more septons. Did you notice though, as the camera pans over to the gallery where Cersei was standing, that the Rains of Castamere started playing? Did you hear
Yes,
that?
I did. I did. We got the Rains of Castamere a couple times in this episode.
That's the only time I heard it.
So Qyburn addresses Cersei about a rumor that she had heard, and she wants to know if it's just a rumor or is there more? And he says, "Oh, there's much, much more."
Yeah. And I think that has to deal with some stockpiles under the city.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I think this has been telegraphed for us.
Which
Uh,
I kind of alluded to in our predictions show, which I thought was going to happen. See, I think I'm going along with my prediction show. I'm going to just underline here what I did in the last one. I'm going to predict. I don't think it's going to get to the point where she's having a trial. I think she's going to take advantage of this knowledge either during the trial or just before, like everything's going to be set up. She knows everybody's going to be gathered, everybody's going to be there for her to have the trial, and she's already established it that she is there. He is, you're not going to come and take me from the Red Keep when I'm not ready. And she's going to either be up in the Red Keep and everybody else is on the other side for the trial. And yep, birds, rumors, much, much, much more.
well, I mean, I think what Cersei's going to do has been foreshadowed. I think she has literally said the words 3 different times in the seasons leading up to this one. On the show, 3 times, she's said the words of what she's going to do. And I think that has been pretty clearly telegraphed. I don't know that I'm going to say what those words are, but I think we'll let people try to see if they've been able to decipher it on their own. As a
Well,
matter of fact, Jamie also says the words in like the very next, not the next scene, but a few scenes away.
I was just gonna say that.
He says the exact same thing.
Yes, I concur.
So Cersei is hatching a plan with Qyburn. Although the way the scene is edited, it almost makes it feel as though the rumor had something to do with Tyrion because the camera goes right to Tyrion back in Meereen. I think that is a little bit of an attempt at a diversion. But we do get Tyrion back at Meereen with Missandei and Grey Worm, drinking wine, making jokes,
Yeah, he
having a good
finally
old time.
he his peer pressure finally worked because this is the second time he's tried to get them to drink. They gave in.
They did. The only thing I like about this scene, the only about this particular portion, the only thing I like about it is that Grey Worm's joke is actually funny.
It was. Well, see, the thing that I took from it, the only thing that I really liked from the scene, again with Grey Worm, but the way that he looked at it and smiled at Miss Sunday. I'm a romantic at heart, and this kind of like unspoken stuff, it just makes my heart melt. And the way he looked at her and he smiled, it just I thought it was the sweetest thing. And she was all giggly from drinking wine. She was adorable.
Yes, more jokes, she says. More
Yes.
jokes.
More wine. Uh, yeah, I thought some of the writing in this was a little awkward, but I guess it works because it's supposed to kind of feel a little forced and awkward because Tyrion is forcing them to have this, you know, joke session. So I think it's meant to seem a little awkward, and it totally worked because it was awkward feeling. I didn't particularly care for it, but that's okay.
Yeah, I did really appreciate the callback to Tyrion's honeycomb joke.
He's said that one before?
Yep, and he never gets to finish it. It's the second time that
Oh,
he has tried to tell that joke,
when was he
and it
trying to
did
tell it
not work.
before?
In season 1, when he's in the Eyrie and they're asking him to confess, and
Oh, okay.
he's talking about how, like, I once brought a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel, and then Liza Aaron cuts him off.
Oh, that's really funny. That's really funny that they kept that in there. That was smart. Okay, that makes me like that scene a little bit more. I changed my mind. I like it now.
Yeah, but he doesn't get to finish it because the Masters decide to attack Marine.
Yeah, we just see them kind of strolling in on their ships, but then they don't attack it until later.
Yeah, we'll come back to the actual attack, although Tyrion is starting to see his plan kind of blow up in his face, almost literally.
Yeah.
We do go back to Jamie, though, and Jamie's conversation with Edmure. And I love this scene. This, to me,
Yeah.
again, there was some stuff, like you said, I would agree with. Some of it hit, some of it is missed. This hits on every level. This is really great writing. It's really great acting.
Yep.
It's intense, and it's revealing.
Yep. I agree.
I like the constant Edmure questioning Jamie's character because now again, Brienne kind of questioned it earlier. Edmure's kind of questioning it here, and you're starting to see Jamie react a little bit to it. Jamie talks about, how the only thing the Blackfish can wish for is a good death, how he would kill every Tully if he had to get back to Cersei, and how he would catapult Edmure's son into the walls of Riverrun if he had to.
That they don't mean anything to him. The only thing that means anything to him is his sister. And he made similar comparisons between his sister Cersei and Edmure's sister Cat, which again, now we have more conversations of Catelyn. They
Yes, we
spoke
do.
of her a lot this
They sure
episode.
did. They sure did. We'll talk about why in a little bit.
Yeah, and he just made that same parallel with how they are so fierce and they will do anything to protect their children.
Anything.
And yes, and I think he's
And
onto something. He's yeah, made a big point of that.
and you know what? Another line that he works in there is when he's talking about that Catelyn and Cersei comparison. is the line, "The things we do for love," which is the exact same thing he said right before he pushed Bran out the window in the very first episode of the show.
Oh, a lot of really good callbacks to lines from early on in the season or early on in the show. This show. That was awkward.
No, but yeah, and to be honest with you, like I said, I think Jaime does not intend to catapult
No.
Edmure's child into a
No,
wall.
he's just trying to scare him. He's just trying to get under his skin.
And Edmure believes that Jaime is an amoral monster, so Jaime plays to that. I think one of the things that is interesting about what Jaime's doing is that he is finding bloodless solutions to problems,
Hmm.
which I think is the sign of someone who is kind of evolving at strategy.
Well, yeah, and well, the thing is that he's following Brienne's suggestion. Find a way to get this castle without any bloodshed. That was her suggestion.
Yeah. And you could kind of see Edmure, you could kind of see that this was coming because Edmure's a dick. Like, all he ever does is fuck shit up.
Yeah, but this was his best scene he's ever had. It was his longest scene he's ever had.
Yeah.
I thought he owned it. I thought he did a really good job. He plays right into what Jaime wanted. Jaime was intimidating him and is making these threats. We feel they're most likely empty threats because Jaime's not really going to do it, but Edmure doesn't know that. He knows of the things that Jaime's done and would most certainly believe that he would do any of that. The Blackfish, he sees it right from the beginning. He sees it when Edmure is wanting the drawbridge lowered. He's like, no, don't. He's got he's got Jaime's knife at his throat. He's not wanting to come in here. Why would they let him come in here if it wasn't a trap? And he can see it from a mile away.
Yeah. Edmure sucks. I mean, he just sucks. Him and the phrase, they all suck. But again, if you're Jaime, this is a smart way to end a siege. And the Blackfish knows, he knows, it's a shitty situation for him because he's screwed. He knows he's going to die. Instead of getting on the boat with Brienne and Podrick, he decides to go down in a sword fight that he doesn't think he'll be any good at, and leads us to another off-screen death that we are, I guess, cheated on. I think some people feel a little bit cheated that we don't get to see the Blackfish actually die.
Yeah, poor guy. I think I'm gonna make a damn fool of myself. As he turns and goes, you kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you go give him hell. You're not gonna make it. But he's like, I ran away at the Red Wedding. I'm not gonna run away now, even though he knew it was a losing battle.
When you have to piss, you have to piss.
That's right.
It's not your fault, Blackfish. It's not your fault.
It's right.
Brienne and Pod get into their boat and they row away. They see Jaime. They do that weird, awkward waving goodbye to each other.
Weird and awkward. I thought it was bittersweet.
Well, anytime a guy is waving at you with a metal hand or a gold hand, it's going to look weird.
No, listen, a guy like Jaime with a metal hand can wave at me like that anytime, and it is not gonna be weird.
I forgot. Lannisters are the best looking people in the world.
There you go. Well, even
Gwendolyn Christie could wave at me.
sure, but even Edmure even acknowledged Jamie's good looks were acknowledged twice by other guys in this episode.
Well, it's one of those things that they have to kind of remind you of in the show because Jaime and Cersei Lannister are literally thought to be two of the most beautiful people in the entire world.
Yeah.
So they have to kind of throw those little reminders in because we grow so accustomed to seeing them. But here's my question about this. The siege ends. The Lannisters and the Freys retake Riverrun. That's also the second part where you hear the Rains of Castamere.
Okay.
They retake Riverrun. Brienne has to return north with no Blackfish. Essentially, this is kind of a failed mission. So my question is, what is Brienne's purpose of being involved in this storyline?
To run away with Tormund and make crazy, honorable wildling knight babies.
See, because what I'm thinking is that her purpose is to jumpstart a Jaime redemption arc. She has no other purpose to the story. This could have gone down completely without her.
Mm-hmm.
but putting her and Jamie in a scene together is a reminder that Jamie has a little bit of honor, a little bit of integrity.
A little soft spot.
Yeah. And I think this served to reveal it because there's no other reason for her to be involved in this storyline at all.
Yeah.
Like I truly don't see her purpose. It's like you know how like in Indiana Jones, there's that whole theory about how if Indiana Jones would have not even been in his own movie, the exact same events would have played out.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
We'll have to chat
Really?
about. No, I haven't.
Yeah, like if Indiana Jones was removed from like Raiders of the Lost Ark, the whole thing would have happened exactly as it happened anyway.
Oh, but it wouldn't have been as good looking.
True, true. But
Dashing.
I think Brienne's only purpose here is just to serve to jumpstart a new arc for Jamie, and I hope that's what happens.
Well,
If
that
not, I
kind of
feel like it'll be a missed opportunity.
well, that kind of goes with your big crazy prediction that you had in our last episode. So it looks like that might be starting to be set up.
Yeah, and if it is, the idea of a redemptive Jamie with a Lannister army completely at his disposal could set up for something really really cool in the future. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think there's a great opportunity there.
Maybe that's something we can talk about in our next prediction episode.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait. I don't even want to start talking about episode 9 yet because I could do like an hour and a half just on the episode 9 preview. We go back to Marine. Marine is under siege.
Oh my god, how
Tyrion is
cool! How cool were those masters little flippy flame trebuchet catapult things? Those were
they were
so
terrific.
cool.
And you know what's funny is I think that's what they exactly tell them to fire, what you just said.
It's in the script, written just like that. Flippy fire trebuchet things. Make it, do it, go. It looks so good.
Engage.
Make it so.
Yeah, those things look terrific. They are sieging the city. Tyrion is kind of panicking. Grey Worm's a little bit pissed. He's saying, "Hey, I've got control of the military." Tyrion asks Grey Worm what they should do. I like that because the seeds had been planted to turn Grey Worm into a more of a strategic advisor,
Yeah.
and that's starting to kind of bear a little bit of fruit. But we do get Dany back. Lands on
Yeah,
top of the pyramid
which I predicted. Thank you very much. Anyway.
and drops off Dany, and everybody's kneeling down. And Dany comes in. She looks kind of pissed.
Yeah, mommy's home and she is not happy. And
There's
you
a
can almost see it on Tyrion's face too. He's like, oh shit.
there's a great, very short, about a minute long snippet from, I guess, some of the after the episode interviews that they do, and they interviewed Amelia Clark, and
Oh,
she
yeah.
talks about how like the circumstances, like when you're a parent and you leave home and you tell your kids don't have a party, don't have a party, and then you come back and they had a party and you have to like kick everybody's ass now.
Well, yeah, everybody was buzzing on that wine from earlier.
But we do get a little bit cheated of this kind of marine battle that's taking place. I assume they're gonna cut back to it maybe next week. But I feel like this should be a relatively short battle. If she has Drogon,
He just flew away though.
yeah, I was kind of hoping that we would just see him single-handedly take out that fleet. All those boats at sea aren't going to really be able to do much against a dragon.
That would have been really kind of cool as he's flying away and you see the door open there just a little bit to see him kind of angle his head down and you just see flames start to come out of his mouth and you can see that's aimed down towards the water and it like maybe hits one of the ships and then then the camera can follow Dany as she walks in. So it gives you just that little bit of a taste that he's tearing it up out there. But no, he just completely is like, bye. I gotta go get my next Uber ride pickup.
So
He just leaves.
it's interesting that you talk about that and kind of the idea of being shortchanged in that scene, because I think Game of Thrones made a decision that might turn out to be to their detriment. And the decision that they made is that when they lined up directors for the episodes, they have 10 episodes, they hired 5 directors, they gave each director 2 episodes.
Yep.
So each pair of episodes serves as almost a little short film, like a
Right.
90-minute film.
Mm-hmm.
So they all feel somewhat self-contained in their little 2-episode group. And I think that impacts the overall cohesion of the series. Like, there are some thematic arcs that make their way through the entire series, but within that arc itself, there are little peaks and valleys, and they almost peak every 2 episodes.
That's a really good point. And yeah, I think you're completely right.
It almost feels like with this one, they're like, okay, we're going to cut it off here because we're bringing in the heavy hitter for the last two who's actually going to give us the battle.
Yeah, who's given us some really good battles before.
Yeah. And I think that almost works to the detriment of it because you do lose a little bit of that continuity and fluidity through the season.
Yeah, I know that I keep referring back to our prediction episode, but we were kind of predicting that there was going to be a lot going down in this episode. Because in the past, episode 8, I think it's been kind of 50-50, really, that the episode 8 was going to be a pretty hard-hitting episode. And we were predicting with what had been set up that there was going to be a lot that goes down with this one, and it didn't feel, like I said, I don't know if it's because I was otherwise occupied with things that were going on in the real world when I was watching this, but to me this episode didn't have as big of an impact on me as I thought it was going to. The third time that I watched it, I was able to really pay a little bit more attention to it. It didn't drive me home like I was looking to have it do.
Yeah, the Marine stuff really didn't move me all that much this week. And it actually hasn't really moved me much all season. I feel like Tyrion has kind of been on a downward arc for a little bit of time now. I thought last year where he had the first conversation with Daenerys, I thought, man, that was really, really great. And I thought it was kind of a rebirth of that character. But I haven't been super into Tyrion's arc this year. I mean, Peter Dinklage is a great actor. He's great on screen, but I don't think he's been given the best stuff to work with.
And who's to say what's going to be coming with them? I mean, he's really just kind of holding down the fort. There's really not much that he can do. He's just trying to keep things together. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say to that.
Okay, well, that's a relatively short scene because after Dany walks in, she doesn't even have any lines. Easiest paycheck Emilia Clarke has ever made. But we go back to the Hound, who has tracked down the rest of the killers. And sure enough, we run into the Brotherhood without banners. And not only do we run into the Brotherhood without banners, we run into Beric Dondarrion.
Yep. I was not expecting, well, I wasn't necessarily expecting to see him. I was expecting to see somebody else. Thought it was going to happen.
So was everybody else, I think, who has either read the books or, ever read a thread on Reddit. A lot of people were expecting a different character to be leading the Brotherhood without banners. The character is named Lady Stoneheart. I won't tell you the identity of that character.
I totally blew that away in our predictions episode. I just let the whole cat out of the bag, let
I had
it
to mark
roll
it as book
around.
spoilers.
Oh, I didn't even attempt to keep anything back.
But in the books,
I will hear though. So
in the books, they're led by a character named Lady Stoneheart, who has a different identity actually. But seeing Beric Dondarrion leading the Brotherhood without banners officially puts the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I'm giving that one up.
Or ties a cinder block to her ankle. I don't know how the best to describe, but it essentially ends the Lady Stoneheart theory of ever showing up in the show. But what I will say is Beric Dondarrion looks terrific. I mean, for a guy who's been dead 6 times, his costuming is on point. Like when I saw that costume, I thought, man, this is what Euron Greyjoy should look like.
Yeah.
Because Beric Dondarrion looks great. That is great character design.
Yeah, because Euron Greyjoy is supposed to have a patch over his eye as well. I thought he looked really cool. But yeah, I've given up on my Lady Stoneheart thing. I was hoping. I really, really wanted to see her, and I've completely given it up now.
And we also see the man who introduced the concept of resurrection in Game of Thrones to us initially, Thoros of Myr, who's sporting a man bun now.
Oh, the bunniest of man buns ever.
I
Yes.
know, man. Even in Westeros. But I will say, I loved everything that happened here. I totally enjoyed seeing the Brotherhood without banners. I liked seeing Beric Dondarrion back. I like seeing Thoros of Myr. I like this whole conversation between Beric and the Hound that is just wonderful, where the Hound says to him, I've already killed you once, I'll do it again. And then just hearing the Hound try to negotiate, he's like, well, I at least want to got one of them. All right, well, at least let me take a hand. I want to hang two of them. Like he's going through these like gruesome negotiations.
And then the poor people that are the poor guy, like I'm saying that these poor guys that just murdered a whole village of people, but they're just standing there having to listen to this of what's going to possibly happen to them. These people are negotiating. It's like, oh gosh, how incredibly awkward to be standing there for all of that. But then it's really funny because the Hound gets another little jab in there. It's like, yeah, well, we all die. Well, except for this one. Motions over back to Beric Dondarrion. I thought that was lovely. His little quips are so good.
Yeah, and they end up killing all the different guys who participated in that attack on the commune. And I gotta say, the actor who plays Lem Lemoncloak, has there been an actor on this show who has had more fun with his like week of fame than this guy? I think his name is Johann Hawker.
Yeah, I actually had a little bit of interaction with him a couple times
Yeah, he
on
has
Twitter. It
been
was fun.
interacting. He has been interacting a lot on Twitter. If you saw the tweet that he put out today, it's absolutely wonderful. It made me so happy
I didn't see it. What did it
because
say?
he goes in and he reads the line in the books that introduces Lady Stoneheart.
Oh.
And it's just excellent. And like he does it like I don't know if it's probably like in his backyard or something. But like you get to see what it might have looked like had they actually gone ahead and done that. It was
Oh.
so cool.
I gotta
I
go
like
check that out.
he's had so much fun and he's been great like interacting with fans and responding to tweets on Twitter. Uh Super happy for guys like that who are enjoying and participating in the show.
Yeah, I actually exchanged a couple tweets with him uh, a couple days ago, and then the guy from earlier in the show, the guy that we see get completely castrated, gutted. Actually, him and I had a couple tweets go back and forth as well. This was before the episode aired. I think it was the night before the episode aired. He tweeted, got a splitting headache, but he spelled got, of course, GOT, but it was capital G, little O, capital T, which is how people refer to Game of Thrones on Twitter and on social media. So he wrote got a splitting headache. And so I'm thinking, oh, I guess something happens because we see the Hound with an axe. But he's probably going to get an axe in his head. So I replied to him and I said, it's like, oh, I got, got a headache, need a little hair of the dog that bit ya? And he liked it and retweeted it, and I just thought it was fun.
You
Yay.
can
Me.
yes. Join in on the conversation at NerdFlixChill on Twitter.
That's right. Just like they did.
But yeah, this stuff with the Brotherhood, I was so into it. There's that whole bit where Sandor gets up to piss in the river, which I was talking about the intentional trolling. I think this is the screenwriter's direct way of telling us we are pissing on this Lady Stoneheart idea.
Okay,
Quite literally.
now I understand why you like that scene. Okay.
We're going to focus on the lake so you can literally see he's pissing in the lake.
Yeah.
Because we are pissing on this idea once and for all. It is dead and buried. There will be no Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I am super into the alternative. The idea of the Hound potentially joining the Brotherhood without banners to go fight the cold winds that are blowing up north because good, bad, old, and young, they don't stand a chance against what's coming. I'm not gonna lie, that is super fucking exciting. Super exciting.
I really like how they set this up where I mean last week we were all kind of confused thinking the Brotherhood without banners, why would they go in and kill these people? And I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to find out there's something more going on here. I don't think it's just a random thing. It turns out it was a random thing that they were part of the Brotherhood, but they were kind of doing their own thing. That's why the Brotherhood ended up hanging them because they've disgraced the Brotherhood. We're getting rid of them, and so it's showing you that they are still upstanding, brothers. This Brotherhood that they're going off and doing good, and yeah, they. I thought it was interesting as well that there's a line that I don't remember if it was Beric Dondarrion that said it or if it was the Red Priest that said it, but it's a line that was said again to the Hound where they said it's never too late to come back.
Yep.
Because they're talking about his redemption and him coming back and doing good, and that's why they want him to join with them, and that's where our scene with the Hound kind of ends on that. And I think he's going to.
Yeah, and I think the Brotherhood without banners is actually kind of a perfect situation for him.
Yeah, me too.
And if they're going up to the north, I mean, shit, man, I would love to see the Brotherhood meet up with like Jon and Winterfell,
That would be
and
pretty
like
cool.
Jon and Beric could like, walk along the battlements of Winterfell, and they could share death stories, and Melisandre can show Thoros how to properly do his hair. It's just such a cool potential plot line of the Brotherhood without banners moving to the north. The only thing missing from there would be like a fucking Valyrian steel sword.
Well, crazy, there's one on its way. Brienne is heading back up there.
Yeah, Brienne is heading back north with
And it
Valyrian
also
steel.
it also gives the possibility of your Hound Sansa thing that you'd like.
Still dig it. There's a lot of potential for some of these characters to start interacting again. I mean, it could be potentially maybe the Hound and Brienne meeting again, or the Hound maybe meeting Arya again, or the Hound meeting Sansa again. I love the idea of these characters starting to interact. The world is starting to shrink, shrink, shrink as we start to approach the final like sprint of this series, which will be, who knows, maybe 13 episodes, maybe 16 episodes, however many episodes it is.
Yep.
And we now finish our episode in Bravos, and I don't know what the hell's going on here. I really don't. I know Arya wakes up, Lady Crane gets killed by the Waif 1000, and they end up having to chase through the streets. Arya's doing some parkour, going all Jason Bourne, running through the streets, tripping and falling, slipping and sliding, fucks up a farmer's market completely. You can't just do that shit at your local farmer's
And
market.
not a single person, even asked if she was okay. You just see somebody completely roll down an entire flight of stairs over baskets and baskets of produce and then comes to a stop and nobody cares.
Like, you got blood on my oranges.
Yeah, nobody even tried to help. Are you okay? Can I help you up? No, you're bleeding. Just leave you there. People of Bravos are dicks.
Well, it is a free city. They don't seem to give much of a shit. They didn't care when
No.
Arya was getting her ass kicked in the streets.
That's true. A blind chick getting beat up, nobody cared.
After this chase, Arya lures the waif into wherever it is that she's been staying. And on the second viewing, this scene worked a lot better for me than it did on the first.
Yeah.
But I love just the idea of Arya pulling out needle and then just taking it to slice the candle to go into pitch dark, where Arya has learned to fight in the dark from her time spent as being blind. Maybe a bit predictable, but I actually thought the execution of it was pretty good. Where this goes off the rails for me is her conversation with Jaqen H'ghar.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the fuck is happening. He says to her, a girl is finally no one. What?
Yeah, girls finally knowing. No, I'm Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going home.
Oh,
Cue
okay.
Jaqen smile and nod. Okay. Yeah, exactly. What? What? I'm so confused. Did he mean for that to happen? He's happy that this has happened? I don't understand what the point of all of this was with her last season into this season. I it was all a ploy to train her to be a killer, to be a really good fighter. What I don't know.
I mean, this is one of those things that I'm sure that whenever the Winds of Winter does come out, that in the books they will do a better job of kind of clarifying and further explaining this plot for Arya.
Well,
I'm positive that'll be the case.
it was very apparent where her training to be a faceless man was lacking, and that was in obtaining the face. Because the waif's face on that wall was looked pretty crappy.
Yeah, it's like if you were to ask me to like make a cake. And
Yeah.
like if I tried to make a cake, it'd be all kinds of fucked up and it'd be like crooked and stuff. So if you were to ask me with no assassin experience to like cut somebody's skin off their face and put it on a wall, it'd probably look a lot like that.
Yeah. It
Definitely some poor craftsmanship.
She didn't get to that point in her training yet, but she really gave it the a good shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very confused as to what is going on here. But the whole Arya thing, I kind of have a little bit of a problem with it. The Arya story got a lot of attention after last week, and it seemed like that's where everybody focused on. And I
With
didn't
crazy
really,
theories too. Crazy theories.
yeah, very, very crazy theories that none of them even remotely happened. And I didn't read the reactions on Twitter this week like I did last week to really see how people reacted to it. But I have a feeling that a lot of people were probably not very happy with what went on with Arya's character. That no, Arya was Arya. Yes, she actually got stabbed in the stomach that many times and lived through it and was able to run all through the city with those kinds of injuries. Again, when we have the guy in Dorne, he got stabbed once in his shoulder blade and that kills him. Okay. I'm yeah.
I'm not even worried about that stuff. I'm perfectly willing to suspend disbelief. I mean, if I'm willing to believe that people can cut people's faces off and wear them around town, I'm willing to believe that Arya can survive a couple of stab wounds to the gut. But
Yeah,
what
well,
I
I
want,
can believe that stuff, but you have to be consistent with it. You can't say that yes, we can cut off people's faces and we can wear their faces and it's not and it there's some kind of magic that's involved with it and then you can drink from this fountain and it's going to, after the fact, your ab wounds are completely healed, but then over here we've got this giant hulking man that gets stabbed once in the back and he's dead in an instant. It's like you have to keep that same consistency, and that's completely inconsistent. And that's where I have a problem with that.
uh, maybe I feel like there's wiggle room there. I mean, you've seen stories about people that suffer. There'd be like some guy who's like in his kitchen and has like a knife accident where like the knife goes
No,
right through
that's
his
true, but
head, but he doesn't die.
it's not going to kill you in an instant like that. It like went into his shoulder, boom, dead. It's like I don't even if it was poisoned, even if there was some kind of a lethal poison on that dagger, it's not going to unless he's like, "Okay, I'm just going to play dead." Unless he just went down thinking he's going to play dead.
Oh, that'll be a new conspiracy theory.
There you go.
Arya Hota lives.
That's right.
But what I want ideally from that storyline is I want it to serve the characters, and I don't know what this does for Arya's character. And that's the
I
big
think
question
so.
that I have. Had she killed Jaqen, I would have been fine with it. I would have been fine with the storyline. Had she killed Jaqen, basically left all the faceless men dead, taken some faces for herself, I would have gotten that.
Yeah.
The only way out of this that I see is if this plot point comes back around at some point and we get an explanation later on down the line. But I still don't know that that's necessarily a fulfilling end to this. Because I've watched it twice. I went back and watched that scene in particular a third time, and I don't know what the hell he's talking about when he says a girl is finally no one. I
Yeah.
literally don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, I
I
was like, is he talking about the waif because she doesn't exist anymore? Or that,
no.
like, one of the two would have to die? Or that, I mean, it's too much intellectual gymnastics to go through to try to figure out what that plot point means.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see, maybe, or just let it go and move on. That there's something bigger that she's gonna do. Who knows? But she's gonna head off to Westeros. I guess that'll be something that we talk about in our next prediction episode. We can talk about what we think is gonna happen with her. But to me, it seems like with almost all of the storylines, it seems like I can kind of see where they're going, and with her, it's just kind of a blank slate with me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea where she's going to go or how she's going to work her way back into the story. The good thing about it is there are options.
Yeah, there's
Like,
a ton
there
of
are
options. I mean, like we were saying before, she could head over to Dorne. She could head over into the Riverlands. Who knows where she could end up.
ultimately, with this episode, because it does end after that whole weird Arya Jaqen scene. Ultimately, I found the stuff in Westeros worked great. The stuff in Essos did not work great. Meaning, Bravos and Marine, I just was not digging.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. For some reason, again, I was expecting more from this episode. It feels like there's so much more that needs to happen, and we only have 2 episodes left, and it looks like from the preview that we got. I don't want to go too much into it because we're going to discuss the preview in our predictions episode out later this week. That it looks like the next episode is going to be nothing but up north.
It
I
sure
mean,
does look like it.
we
I
might
mean,
get a
that
little
was we.
sprinklings of other things, but it looks like it's going to be nothing but up north. But there's a lot of things that are out there hanging. Like, we haven't seen Sam and Gilly again. We haven't seen Dorne again. Are they going to leave all of this for episode 10? All these other things, the Arya thing, what's going on with what's going to go on with the Brotherhood, what's going on with Sam and Gilly, what's going on with Dorne? Is all of that going to be shown in episode 10? I mean, that's a lot to pack into episode 10.
Part of me thinks that we will not just see Winterfell next week. Part of me thinks it'll be Winterfell and Marine.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully. But I got to tell you, I actually thought the preview, which we will talk about on our next podcast for next week's episode, is outstanding. It looks fucking tremendous. I'm super excited about it. It might be the episode of Game of Thrones that I'm most excited about ever.
Really?
Absolutely. I think it looks phenomenal. The cinematography in just the 50 seconds that we get is excellent. And I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
I don't think I watched the same preview as you.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I kind of watched again. I mean, I guess I can just write everything off that my mind was elsewhere when I was watching it. I guess I can blame that. I don't know. But it didn't grab me like I thought it would. It was
Wow.
kind of like,
It
"Oh, that's all it's okay. Sure.
it blew me away.
Another
Blew me away.
battle. Yay." I don't know. I think maybe because they've set up so many good interactions between characters one on one, dialogue wise, has been really interesting to me this season. A lot of that writing has been so good and so strong. And normally I'm a big like battle effects driven person. That I like seeing those in movies and such, but for whatever reason, when I watch the preview, it's kind of like, all right. I have a feeling everything that's going to be good in the episode we just saw. It's kind of like when you see a preview for a really big action movie, like a Michael Bay movie, and after the preview, it's like, yep, that's all the best parts of the movie. I don't need to go see it.
Oh, I don't
Like
I don't
that's kind of how I felt with the preview.
I completely disagree.
Yeah.
I mean it to me it is so impressive, and I actually think it could go down as one of the great battles in TV history.
Wow.
I don't know that there's ever been anything attempted like what they're
Really?
going to try to do in next week's episode.
Really?
I am all in. It looks wonderful, and I'm the director for next week's episode is Miguel Sapochnik, who directed the Hard Home episode,
which was fantastic.
Which had one of the best battle sequences in the history of the show.
I would completely agree
White
with that.
Walkers and the Night's King. So
Yep.
he's actually directing the last 2 episodes, which should be really, really cool to watch.
Yeah, I'm maybe I'm keeping my expectations low, so I will be completely blown away for the next 2 episodes. Maybe it's the fact that I don't want the season to end. I can't believe that we're here. I can't believe we're here at the penultimate episode, is upon us, and I'm not ready for it to end. And maybe that's why I'm so low key about it. I don't know. But knowing what he has done in the past, Hard Home I thought was absolutely incredible. The things that happened with the whites, I thought was just absolutely amazing. Just seeing them plunge over the side of the mountain on top of each other, then to get up and run, and then to see all of the bodies laying there and all of a sudden, rising. Just so powerful and so well done. I'm hoping then that will be just a little bit of a snippet if we, have an episode or 2 episodes that are all completely his.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I'm super into it. I can't wait. I'm excited to talk about our preview episode when we do our preview
I
and
can
predictions.
see. My goodness. I'm just going to hand over the microphone to you and just let you have at it.
I'll need to watch that preview like another couple dozen times.
Maybe I will too. Maybe I'll have to sit back and watch it again and let it grow on me like a mushroom or something.
Yeah, the arrow shot in that fucking preview is amazing. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. Go back and look specifically for the arrow shot. It's
okay.
Nuts.
All right. I remember a shot of 1-1 smashing somebody, which is always cool.
So, my final thoughts on the episode, again, like I said before, everything in Westeros worked great. Everything in Essos did not work as great. I'm a little baffled by the Arya storyline, but I'm excited to see that kind of be left behind as she starts to make her way back to Westeros. Loved everything going on in the Riverlands with Jaime, Brienne, Blackfish, Edmure, and the Hound and the Brotherhood Without Banners. That's 2 straight weeks where that has been the most interesting plot line on the show.
Yeah, with me, this episode was really hit and miss. There were some moments that I thought were really, really strong, and then some moments that I thought that just kind of felt awkward and disjointed, and kind of removed me from the episode a little bit. So I was really kind of up and down with it. I think so far that was probably the weakest episode of the season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, now you guys know what we think, but we want to know what you think. So reach out to us on Twitter at NerdFlixChill or on Facebook under that same name and let us know your thoughts. We want to hear some of your feedback. What did you enjoy about the episode? What are you looking forward to most? Send us your thoughts. We want to read some of this stuff on the air. And if you're enjoying the podcast, go ahead and share it with other people. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, and if you do, 5-star reviews are always appreciated. It's a nice little gift for us. You can also find us on Stitcher as well. We have links to all that stuff if you go to our Twitter and Facebook pages. We can show you how to best find us. Any closing thoughts, Carrie?
No.
Okay. Well said.
I'm a woman of few words right now.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We look forward to hearing your feedback. Have a great week.